MLB has a huge problem. Over the past 2 decades, the age of the average baseball fan has increased steadily, as MLB has found it harder and harder to connect to younger audiences. Of course, there are plenty of things that have contributed to this problem, including, but not limited to, an obsession with outdated unwritten rules, the reputational damage done during the Selig administration, the length of games being out of control, and of course, the growing inaccessibility of the game more generally. However, even with all of the problems that MLB is facing right now, its biggest problem is still the one it has the hardest time solving, and that is that compared to other sports like basketball and football, baseball has developed a reputation of being boring to the general public, a reputation that, deserved or not, has definitely stuck with the sport. Now, if you're watching this video, you probably already know that this narrative is completely unfounded. After all, with superstars like Shohei Ohtani, Fernando Tatis Jr., and Vladimir Guerrero Jr. leading the way, we are currently living in something of a golden age of fun baseball. But unfortunately, even with the contributions of players like Tatis in adapting the game for the 2020s, MLB is still having a tough time breaking through to general audiences, who still view baseball as something of a thing of the past. But where MLB has repeatedly failed, one player has made it his mission to spread the gospel of baseball and to grow the game beyond its current audience. And unlike many that have come before him, he's actually having a little bit of success. As you might have guessed from the title of this video, I am of course talking about Brett Phillips of the Tampa Bay Rays. And by the end of this video, I'm going to be showing you how he is almost single-handedly making baseball fun again. Let me explain. It's October 24th, 2020. We're in Arlington, Texas for Game 4 of the World Series between the Tampa Bay Rays and the Los Angeles Dodgers. Currently, we're in the bottom of the ninth of what has already been a classic back-and-forth affair, and the Rays find themselves down to their final out of the game with the tying run on second and the winning run on first base. If the Rays can find a way to score the winning run from first, they'll tie the series at 2 games apiece, with a pivotal Game 5 at home coming the very next night. But if they can't, they'll go down 3-1, and their odds of winning a title will basically go down to 0. At that time, Brett Phillips hadn't recorded a base hit in over a month, and in fact, he had barely been used throughout the entire playoffs. But now, here he was, in the box for the biggest at-bat of his life, being asked to come through in a pinch hit plate appearance against one of the best relievers in baseball in Kenley Jansen. By now, you probably already know how this ends. Phillips manages to dump a ball into center field, chaos completely takes over the game, and the winning run comes all the way in from first base to score, giving the Rays an 8-7 victory in one of the most iconic World Series games of all time. And in the aftermath of his heroics and his subsequent celebration, Brett Phillips would utter 3 words in his post-game interview that would ultimately come to define him and his purpose in the game.
Man, baseball is fun. Wow.
For most fans, this was their first introduction to Brett Phillips. But at that point in his career, he had already established himself as one of the biggest personalities in all of baseball, something that he developed over his long journey within the game. It all started when he was drafted out of high school in 2012, where he'd spent his first 3 years in professional baseball bouncing around Houston's minor league system. From there, he'd be traded to Milwaukee, where he'd spend 2 more years in the minor leagues before eventually getting his first cup of coffee in 2017. From there, he'd be traded again, this time to Kansas City, where he'd spend most of the next 2 years getting bounced around between the AAA team and the big league ball club. That was until Tampa Bay traded for him in the middle of the 2020 season, a move that I would say worked out for them. Because of his heroics in the 2020 World Series, Phillips became something of a cult baseball hero, and in the wake of the fame that this brought him, he quickly became a fan favorite in Tampa and beyond, largely as a result of his entertaining shenanigans on and off the field, his fun and engaging personality, and of course, his iconic laugh. These qualities made him a very entertaining guest for any show that wanted to book him, and as such, he became a frequent interview guest, not just on baseball shows, but also for things like YouTube videos and live streams, places where you normally wouldn't see baseball players. And all the while, he was spreading one singular message, the message that baseball is fun. But what makes him such a great communicator for this message? And why has he found such success on a general level? In order to do that, we'll have to take a deeper dive into what makes him such a fun and compelling player in the first place, and how he has leveraged that to spread the gospel of baseball on a more general level. Now, at first glance, Brett Phillips doesn't seem to be the stereotypical sports media darling. After all, he's not a perennial all-star, nor is he a typical MVP candidate. Additionally, with all the cities he's played in being some of the smallest markets in MLB, he really hasn't gotten much national exposure with the exception of that World Series. But despite all of that, he has still managed to build quite the platform for himself. He has a loyal fan base in all the cities he's played in, MLB seems to push out his highlights regularly, and of course, he doesn't seem to have any issues with booking interviews. Honestly, it really doesn't even matter what he's actually doing. Whether it's goofing around on the pitcher's mound during a blowout, playing in a Fortnite tournament with a bunch of YouTubers, or just doing an interview on MLB Network. He just has one of those personalities that makes everything seem fun, and people seem to genuinely connect with him. Two things that are massive when it comes to being in the media. In a market that's as saturated as sports media is, entertainment and engagement are king. If you can be engaging, entertaining, and make people laugh like Phillips can, there's a very good chance that you're going to get invited back again and again. And it also helps that, at least based on everything I've seen, he genuinely seems like a great guy. In fact, I don't think I've ever heard anybody say anything bad about him. His teammates seem to love him, the fans in Tampa seem to love him, and of course, the media loves him. If he doesn't end up as a coach after his playing days are over, there's no doubt in my mind that he is going to have a long and successful career in the media, whether that be in baseball specifically, or if he goes out and does his own thing. Because no matter what he does, there will always be a group of fans and supporters behind him willing to follow him wherever he goes. But of course, building that following and building that platform is one thing, but what do you actually do with that platform is another. And in Phillips' case, I want to do a deeper dive into it, because what he's done is become one of the most successful baseball ambassadors that the sport has seen in quite some time. And the way he's done it is actually pretty simple. As great as the MLB community is, it can also be a bit of a bubble. One of the biggest problems that MLB has had over the last 2 decades is that they only seem to appeal to people who are already baseball fans in the first place, and as such, they've had a hard time breaking through to mainstream audiences. The result of which is that even the sport's biggest stars have had a hard time breaking through and getting the kind of recognition that they deserve, especially compared to stars from other sports. But what makes Phillips so special in this regard is that, largely due to the reasons we talked about earlier, he's been able to break through some of those molds and reach out to audiences that normally wouldn't hear anything about baseball.
Like, didn't you play with him on stream or something one time?
No,
I could have sworn it was like
I played
because
with,
of that.
I played with a Raider and I played with Brett Phillips.
The pitcher.
Yeah.
Or the baseball guy. Yeah. Okay, so
Brett Phillips is a Major League Baseball player for the Tampa Bay Rays, who just recently broke the Hall of Fame legend Babe Ruth's world record to become the first player in history with 3 Grand Slams and an inside the Parker in a span of 30 days or less. Brett is easily the nicest, most likable guy in sports, and this episode proves it.
Well, he is affectionately called our hometown hero. I have been trying to get him on as a guest for our show for quite some time. I'm so excited that outfielder from the Tampa Bay Rays right there, Brett Phillips, joining us this morning on a mission now to remind everybody, baseball families, including myself, on how fun the game of baseball really is. And that's why we all got into it. Brett, good morning. What an honor to have you join us.
And if these audiences are going to hear about baseball, it should be from a guy like Phillips. After all, the mainstream narrative about baseball for years is that it's been a dying sport. It's a boring game for old people that has no relevance in today's society. But Phillips is challenging that notion completely by explaining to people why he loves the sport so much, what makes it so special, and most importantly, how it can be so much fun. And these are the points that MLB and its advocates need to continue to hit on if they want to actually be successful in growing the game and reaching out to new audiences. Now, I can't tell you how successful Brett Phillips is going to be in his crusade to tell people how fun baseball is, but I can say one thing for sure, and that's that compared to MLB's approach from recent years, Phillips' approach is a huge and much needed step forward for baseball, one that the sports advocates need to emulate if they hope to achieve the kind of growth that they want to accomplish. And if they want to tell people just how fun the game really is and get them to give the sport a try, maybe they can start by getting a pointer or two from Mr. Baseball is Fun himself. But with that being said, I want to hear from you now. What's your opinion of Brett Phillips? And additionally, what do you think MLB should do going forward to make the game more fun for fans and players alike? Let me know in the comment section down below. And while you're down there, be sure to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon down below so that you're notified every time we post a new video. Each of those things really helps us out with the algorithm. Additionally, if you really like these videos and you want to support the channel even further, please consider giving to our Patreon at patreon.com/thediamondbaseball. There, you can not only help us to make these videos possible, but you'll also get yourself access to some exclusive perks in the process. Once again, thank you so much for watching this video, and we'll see you next time.